Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure.
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own 2 eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. And thank you, Patreon members and convicts and Apple subscribers. I appreciate y'all. Y'all, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. This week I'm doing a public speaking engagement with LOPA and the Louisiana Coroners Association. And actually it's tomorrow, but you'll get this the day after the speech. But I'm going to do a little bit of a shorter episode, but the thing is, I'm going to play some clips in it that were sent to me. And I don't know if you remember back in, like, I don't know if it was April or May, whenever it was, went to #1 in the world. And it was because of a TikTok video called Sleepovers or Cancel Sleepover, something like that. And today we're going to name this episode Sleepover, for lack of a better term. What it had to do with was David and Christina Constance. And remember, that's the very first episode I ever did on Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And, I could have told a murder or case or whatever, but I was like, true crime fans. And remember, this was my first one. I had listened to the other #1 shows in the world, and I was like, shit, that's something anybody can research. Let me tell them a real story. And I told this story, and I told it in detail. It's a horrible case, but it ended up being a great case in the end when I was able to get David Constance 4 life sentences. Now, Christina, I don't know if y'all kept up with it. I did an episode on this of her parole hearing. Christina pled out to 20 years. David, when we finally got them to go for the 4 charges of aggravated rape when they weren't going to during the grand jury, and they came back, we go to trial, etc. And that's another thing. After I play this audio clips, I want to read you what David Constance's appeals are and what he says about yours truly, Woody Overton. But, got him convicted and he can't hurt anybody else. Well, Christina, guess what? She's out. She's walking free. And that's a fact. So I did an episode on her parole hearing. Go back and listen to that. But yeah, she got out in I think like 18 years or something like that. So I wouldn't let her babysit my kids if I was y'all. But yeah, go back and listen to the story. But what I had never really dug into this whole sleepover thing and why it made us go #1. And that became the most double clutch. And Christina Constance became the most downloaded episode in the world for a time, right? And this was a big deal on TikTok. And some lady, and I forget her name, God bless her, had actually stitched me in. I didn't even know that was a thing on TikTok into a video of another lady talking about it. But I'm not going to play all those. But I did find this one today, and this lady is cooking in her kitchen. Evidently, she has a TikTok channel and a YouTube channel, and so she's cooking. You'll hear her cooking in the background, and she's going to tell you about sleepovers, right? And then stay tuned because I'm going to tell you what David Constance is doing now in the appeals process, et cetera. So if you hear any outside noise, y'all, that's I'm recording in my country place, and it's windy AF outside. So just bear with me.
So this story kicks off in 2005 with Christina Constance and Kimberly Domain. They went to the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana, and they went there to talk about Christina's husband. What the heck could they possibly be talking about with Christina's husband? Ain't no way Christina's husband did something. Joke's on you. Christina and her husband, some nasty individuals. Detective Overton, he comes over, he sees her and Kimberly face, and he like, dang, there's something wrong with them. Let me go over there and see what's wrong with them. Because they look all sad and whatnot. He goes over there. Christina went on to tell the detective that her husband had forced her to have sex with his 16-year-old nephew. I know. You're already like, what kind of stuff is that? Oh, but the plot thickens, okay? Detective Overton just thinking, oh, okay, so this is just a simple case of, juvenile sex case. Okay, nothing simple about it because ew is ew. Find somebody your own age. But she goes on to tell him, oh no, my husband forced me to have oral sex on my juvenile son. The juvenile that we're speaking of is 7 years old. What the heck is happening is what I'm thinking. Before she even finished the rest of her sentence, Detective Overton's like, okay, whoa, stop right there. He read her Miranda rights. We all know the Miranda rights. We all watch Law and Order. This case has jumped from a juvenile to now you looking at some charges. Now, sis, you and your nasty husband. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to when all of this started. Because This caught me off guard. So, Christina's friend, Kimberly Domain, she tells the Detective Overton, that she found a note inside her son's pocket. Well, let me not say pocket, because I'm not 100% sure where she found the note, but she found the note nonetheless. But it's what's in the note that catches your attention. She found a note that basically was saying that this guy named David Constance, who they call Clutch for short, he gave Miss Kimberly's son, who's a teenager, permission to have intercourse with his wife. He told him that she will be willing to do it. So he asked her, when will you be ready to do these things? Because Clutch told me you down. UDTF. Kimberly Constance found this inside her son's pocket, wherever she found it, under his bed, in his diary, I don't know. She immediately went right to Christina and was asking Christina, like, WTF, what the heck is going on? Why are you trying to get with my son? So then that's when she went on to tell her about, oh, that's Clutch. He's been making me do that. He's been making me sleep with his nephew. And he's been making me perform orals on our son. Kimberly had to tell her, girl, we need to tell somebody about this. This ain't right, which is how they ended up in Detective Overton's office. Before she could even finish the rest of her story, the detective went and called some of his friends, not friends, but you know what I mean, like the people he worked with, and was like, hey, I got this lady down here. This is what she's saying. She's saying that her husband, David Constance, he got her doing all this stuff, and that they've been doing this pretty much the whole duration of their marriage. And their marriage, I think it's been like, and they was married for like 20 years. Within that 20 years, the whole time they've been together, they have been having relations with other kids. What really caught me off guard is that he started off doing that to her. Like, he met her when she was only 9 years old. He was dating her older sister, and he was like 18. When he'll go to the sister house, aka their house, he would go into the room with her and mess with her, and had been messing with her all the way up till she was about 14, 15. Her being like 14, 15, he ran away with her. So he got charged with kidnapping Christina and with rape of Christina. But for whatever reason under the sun, her parents dropped the charges. And I don't know if they wanted Christina to make the decisions on her own. I don't know. I really don't know what could have possibly went through your parents' head to drop the charges on somebody who kidnapped their child. But they dropped the charges. So yeah, her parents pretty much, I don't want to say gave up on her, but they just let her make her own decisions. And her decision was to continue to be with David Constance. This is definitely a case of a victim making people her victim, because David was then charged with child kidnapping, and the justice system fails us once again. They ended up only charging David with one count of contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile, and then he pled nolo contendory, which means he accepted the convictions of what he did, of as if like he was guilty, but he didn't admit to being guilty, if that makes sense. Like, he accepted whatever the deal was as if he was guilty without admitting, I'm guilty, I did that. By pleading this, he avoided plea used against him any other time in this case. Like, he couldn't be found guilty for that case. But it didn't matter anyway, because her parents dropped the case. They dropped it, and she went on to marry David, and he groomed her into bringing more kids into their home because they trusted David. They trusted David and thought, oh, he's such a good guy, even though he looked creepy. Oh, he's so cool. He was offering to help take care of their kids, buying them food. And these people were like poor, like no money, barely can live, don't know where their next meal is coming from. And David took advantage of it. 100,000% he took advantage of it. So one of the people that David and Constance had had hurt their victim. His name is TB. I'm gonna say TB. That's his initials, TB. And the only reason why I know is because I remember learning about tuberculosis. In my head, stands for tuberculosis. His dad was good friends with David and let him go over there to their house. They trusted him to take care of his son. Because of course you're not gonna think, oh, let my kid go over there to somebody's house who's going to hurt him. I don't believe any parent goes thinking, let me take my child, let my child go over there. But he did. So not only he stayed the night, he went over there and David was like, hey, you want to sleep with my wife? TB, he's like a teenager, and he's like, no, I'm good. He's scared. He doesn't want to. And David kept just pushing it on him. Come on, man. You scared? You don't want to sleep with that? You see how good that is? Come on, man. So, TB ran to the restroom. Tried to look for a window to climb out of. Couldn't find no window. Poor baby. TB goes back inside the room, and when he goes back inside the room, Christina is laying on the bed naked. And David tells him, go ahead. Well, one thing leads to another. Something happens. Come to find out, Christina and David had hooked up with about 13 kids. Well, at least 13 kids they can find for the sheriff to talk to. Christina remembers it being from the duration of their marriage, so with that being 20 years, 20 or more kids, pretty much. 20 or more kids. These kids aged from 7 to 17, and then some of them were adults by now. So it's no telling who else it could have been, where they are. It's no telling. So let's do the math real quick. They're saying 13 victims were juvenile, and David and Christina finally were caught. But Christina counted over 20 victims. And each one, she has some form of an inappropriate relationship with them. She says every single thing that she did that was inappropriate was all because David was telling her to do so. These victims was interviewed thoroughly, one by one, on different scales because, again, these age ranges are from 9 to 17. So each one of these kids, not each one of these kids, but each one of these age ranges understands things differently, if that makes sense. They have to understand if they cannot tell between what's a lie and what's the truth. These were some of the things that the kids were asked. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I heard this story on a podcast from the actual detective who went through this case. And the things that I heard on that podcast, these people deserve to be underneath the prison. And I know you hear that all the time with different people saying that, like, oh, they need to be underneath the prison. No, for real. So I'm not going to go into too much detail over the interview or what was said, but the detective I'm speaking of Woody Overton, he talks about this on his podcast. And one of the questions that they asked Christina's son was, so do you know why you're here? That sweet baby, he understood why he was there. He says, because of what David did to me, or rather, what Clutch did to me. Because remember, Clutch is his nickname. She said, okay, what did Clutch do to you? He said that he would touch him, make him touch his areas, and he would touch Clutch areas. And that baby understood all of that. Now, Christina's son, he is smart as can be. And thankfully, he was taken out of that predicament that he was in. And he lives with his aunt, Christina's older sister. Well, I'm assuming it's her older sister, since that's the only one we know about. He lives with the aunt. So I'm not going to go into detail of the rest of his story of what he told the detective. You can look it up. But while he was talking, he went on to say that they asked him, so are you done? Is there anything else that happened? You know, you could tell us. He broke down crying. He tells the interviewer, Clutch would tell me to go outside during dinner time and pick up his cigarette butts. So by the time he was done picking up all of those cigarette butts, dinner was over. So Christina's son was going to bed hungry. When he moved in with Christina's sister, he was still stealing food and hiding it underneath his bed because he was scared and not sure when he was going to have his next meal. So Clutch wasn't just also a pedophile. Clutch was an all-around piece of crap all the way around. There are so many more victims than I can even name, all within this time frame. Like I said, 13 different juveniles, 20 total or more, and 13 juveniles for sure that were interviewed, and each one had the same story of being touched by Constance and David. If they weren't touched, then it was oral. If it wasn't oral, then it was penetration. It was always something. So they spent 25 years doing this. David was taken in by Detective Overton, and when he was taken in, he immediately, oh, that's not true. I didn't do that. My wife is lying. We ain't been together for some months. She just pulling some stuff out of her butt. She's lying. Oh, no, she was not. Because not only did she tell on herself, she told on him, and she admitted to what she did wrong. I hate to say it. Homegirl was slow. She didn't have it all. You could tell she did not have a good education. And David, he wasn't too far off from her either, but David for sure took advantage of the fact that she was a little slower than he was because she was grown and David was just a piece of crap. But our good old boy, my boy, Detective Overton, he was asked by the assistant district attorney to leave out some of the details during the trial that make sure that you leave out the aggravated, all of those type of things, you know, the incest, anything like that, leave it out. Detective Overton was like, that's BS. I'm not leaving that out. These kids deserve more. These kids deserve better. They deserve for their story to be heard. They deserve for them to have justice for what he did. And then even justice for the ones who they couldn't even find because these people had moved. They had moved so many times they couldn't even find them. All of this was happening within the basis of 25 years. They couldn't find everyone. So when Detective Overton took the stand, he told the truth, nothing but the truth. He told everything. He gave them all the horrible details exactly the same way the kids gave it to him. All the gory details, the bodily functions, the liquids, all of it, you name it, he told it in detail to these people. Jurors was crying. They were getting mad. Their faces was turning red. One of them got so mad they stood up and was like, how the hell will you let this happen? How the hell we let this happen for so long? So Detective Owens, he slowly turns over to the assistant attorney and says, I don't know. How did we let this happen for so long? So you know she was hot, red hot. So the assistant district attorney at the time wanted him to leave out all the gory details. Leave all of that out. Leave out all the gory details. Don't tell them about the incest. Don't tell them about all that. David told it all. So it took the jury 30 minutes to deliberate. And one of the guard that was standing by the door, they told the detective Overton that, no, really, it didn't take them that long. They knew he was guilty already. They just need to sit around a little bit longer because the evidence was all there. Now, he did not get the death penalty. So he got life without parole, 4 life sentences. And Christina got 20-year plea, both still doing time. David is for sure going to die in prison.
Now, she got a lot of things straight. And this is a lady named Diamond Monique. It was back in April 9th of 2023. So evidently she has like a true crime thing that she does, and I'd never heard of her before. But there's a lot of videos. When I started searching them today, a lot of videos of people who took my story or took the episode basically from about Double Clutch, and they used it on this whole sleepover craze and why they, don't let their kids go to sleepovers. You can't trust anyone, Well, you got to teach your kids to be aware, and certainly none of these parents, they were good, poor, salt of the earth people, and none of these parents had any idea this was going to go on. I mean, Clutch may have not been, or David Constance may have not been a superstar or anything mentally or whatever, but he knew what he was doing, y'all. He'd been a predator. She got it wrong. Well, they did do kids together for 20 years, but he'd been doing it for 40 years. And what she's talking about when I went in and told the truth, that was on the grand jury. And the day before, this was going to be, they actually were supposed to have a meeting the day before about going for the death penalty. And I totally believe we would have got it, but they never called me the day before, right? And then I was like, what the fuck? And that morning, before I go in for the grand jury to get the indictments, we had like 40-something kids total, right? And it was just ton more than 13, and it was all different charges from molestation to aggravated rape to incest or whatever. But I'll never forget it, standing in the hallway outside the courtroom, and Leanne Malnar, who was the DA assigned to the case, she and I had gone on the field and talked to the families and different stuff. And that's where the one little girl, who I'll talk about in a minute, when we were in their trailer somewhere over in Donaldsonville, and Leanne was pregnant, and she said, Miss Leanne, is that Mr. Woody's baby in your belly? And Leanne turned beet red and was like, no. But Leanne stopped outside. I said, what's up? And well, she had Charlotte Hebert with her, who is now the judge, or a judge in the 21st Judicial. And Charlotte was the top prosecutor handled all the high profile cases. And Charlotte says, I said, what's up? I mean, death penalty, right? I mean, these things are so horrible, y'all. There's so many more than I included in the episode. And Charlotte was like, nope, we're not going for the death penalty. We're going to go for a couple of molestations. We don't want you to say anything about the death penalty. Not death penalty, about aggravated rape or any of this and that or this, whatever. Nothing, right? And they were only going for like, hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone supported supplement, it's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. 2-3 charges, which the dude would have got pled out like he did on everything else. I was like, fuck that. I didn't say anything. And I figure I'm going to lose my job. And so the grand jury is a secret grand jury. And I did go in there. And the prosecution opens you up and you introduce who you are. And then you start to tell the story, right? It's not like there's no defense counsel in the room. It's none of that. And you tell the story. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job. These kids are going to get justice or I'm going to just fucking lose my job. I didn't care. And I had the red ass. And so I did tell the whole thing. And that's when they stopped it in the middle. You know, the people were crying and one man slammed his hands on the table and all that. And it said, Detective Overton, I want to know how the son of a bitch has been getting away with this for this long. I said, that's a great question. One we asked Madam Prosecutor. And that's when Charlotte Leanne got up and left, and she went and called the DA, Scott Perilou. And Scott Perilou was like, fuck it, charge him with the aggravated rape. Charge him with the strongest 4 cases that Woody has on the ag rape. And that's what we did. And long story short, got him the conviction, like that part was true. And you know, it took it longer to vote the jury foreman than it did to vote David and Constance for 4 life sentences. Now, this is why a couple of reasons I want to talk about this today too, to add into it. So first of all, as I told you, Christina got out. Just fucking blows my mind. And she lied to the parole board. And again, it's not really the parole board's fault. They have a base file, about what happened, but she's not even supposed to have contacts with any of the victims. And in that parole hearing, she admits that she's communicating with them. One of them being her own son, and who's now a grown man, by the way. And you know, so whatever, fuck it, they let her out. I mean, that's on them, and I hope she got her shit straight. But let me tell you about fucking double clutch. And this, I found this today, and that's why I decided to do this. he appealed naturally. I don't know why I never looked this up before. He appealed in, I'm not going to read you everything verbatim, but he appealed based off of a couple things, and one of them being me, naturally. First of all, he said, I got it wrong, and, his wife was out to get him, blah, 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 what the fuck, right? But one of the things he said on appeal was that under JF, and they said her name in the parole hearing with Christina Constance. I mean, they actually said the kids' names. They're adults now. I still don't want to say their names, so I'll call her JF. He appeals and he says they can't find me guilty of aggravated rape because they can't prove that I penetrated her in any way. Now, okay, that JF said, and one of many, many times, but this, like the one time that we went for on the aggravated rape, and I'm not going to read it all to you and bore you. I'll just tell you off the top of my head. This is what I read. And I'll tell you what she testified in court, because fuck, I was in there. I mean, this is after I testified and after I'd been unsequestered. And this one particular charge, aggravated rape, was clutch. He got him, three juveniles over that night to spend the night. And it was JF and her brother, and then and another person, initials MM, and he took little JF, and now she was like 11 years old, y'all, and just she's the one that asked Leanne about, is that Mr. Woody's baby in your belly? Just a little innocent, uneducated, poor sweetheart, all right? But he took her in the bedroom, told her to take her clothes off. She said no. He forced her to take her pants off, and he got on top of her. He took his clothes off and got on top of her, and she said he hurt my bottom, right? And she doesn't know, to say intercourse or penetration or whatever. And she's like, he hurt my bottom, and it happened pretty much all night. And at one point, the other two kids, and they testified to this, tried to pull Constance off of her, and he wouldn't get off. But finally, he got off enough where she could go to the bathroom. And she testified that she went to the bathroom, and she wiped herself, and she was full of blood and a white sticky or white gooey substance. I think she said blood and white gooey stuff. Well, what does that tell you, right? I mean, either he was in her anus or he was in her vagina, and he's now actually appealing, saying, hey, that's not proof, right? Her having blood and white stuff, that's not proof that I ever penetrated her. Now, under Louisiana law, it's changed now, they call it something else, first-degree rape, but it used to be called aggravated rape. But the definition is penetration of any orifice, no matter how slight. It doesn't say it has to be your penis. It doesn't say, it could be fingers or your tongue or whatever, but penetration, of the anus or the vagina or the mouth with something, no matter how slight. It doesn't have to go all the way in. Well, I'll tell you that I believe he was all the way in her. He was in her enough to make her bleed. 11 years old, and she's crying the whole time, and the other kids try to get him off of her, and he's in her enough to have an orgasm, right? But his son of a bitch has actually appealed the fact that we didn't prove that he ever penetrated her. So he should not, that count of aggravated rape should be thrown out. And so, to be a long story short, the appellate court came back and were like, it's reasonable to believe that there's penetration because of the blood and what have you and whatnot. So they turned that one down. Now, another big stickler was there was a lady during voir dire who, when questioned, that's jury selection, y'all, and when they were going around doing the questioning, they got to her, and I'm not going to give her name, but they got to her, and they were like, they asked all the general questions, and then when they get done, they said, has anybody, had a family member who's been a victim of a sexual crime. And she stated that, that her nephew had been the victim. And basically they kept questioning about Nikki Muscarero was the defense attorney. And he's a good friend of mine. He's a good dude. I think he's a state rep now or something. But he kept questioning her on that. He was like, well, don't you think that would make you biased against David Constance? And she's like, no. I mean, he said, you're mad about your nephew being raped, right? She's like, yeah. And he was like, well, then they bring him in here, you're going to automatically think that you're going to be mad at him too. And she was like, no. I mean, she said, if they prove whatever they have him in here for, then he's guilty. If they don't prove it, then he's not guilty. And it went back and forth. And that was a big piece of the voir dire. Well, ultimately, they didn't excuse her. The judge believed that and that was Judge Beth Wolf, who's awesome, by the way. And she was like, I don't think this is going to sway her opinion one way or another. She has made it abundantly clear that this is not going to change her mind. What happened to her nephew has nothing to do with what Constance is here for, and she's going to be able to openly and freely judge without bias. But that was a big stink in the appeals process. Now, ultimately, they denied it, right? Denied him again. And if I could find it again to read to you, they have me in the appeals process when I was on the stand, and basically, they were trying to say that my confession I got, if you will, from Christina was like spousally protected and hearsay, because now Christina didn't testify against David, and I thought that would be part of her 20-year deal, but she had my good friend Glenn Westmoreland was her defense appointed attorney, and he was waiting. He was like, "Fuck that! Let Constance let Clutch go first, and then we'll see where we stand." Well, she wasn't going to testify, and so, but I was able to use those statements in my whole case. And I mean, shit, if Kim Domain hadn't brought Christina in that day, my whole case, I would have never worked it. Well, hell, this podcast probably would have never got started, and so it's a lot of me on the stand, and Nikki, the defense attorney, kept objecting to the things I was testifying to, saying it was hearsay and all this, and because what Christina told, this person or that person, that I had no direct knowledge of. Well, fuck you, I did, and because of what I took the initial knowledge. Now remember, we're only going for 4 counts of aggravated rape, which is 4 life sentences. And so, you're going to trial. Look, I'm telling you, I can't remember the exact number of victims, but I'm thinking it was like 40, and people that we made contact to that Christina gave us the fucking names of. And we had to hunt them down. And a lot of them were adults. This should have been going on with Christina and David for over 20 years. And David had been doing it for like 40 years, something like that, just since he was a kid. And so me and Brian Paul Smith tracked all these people down, the ones that we could. A lot of them had changed married last names, and, a lot of them didn't want to talk to us. And they were like, fuck that, that's in my past. I'm not bringing it up. I don't want to be involved in this. And hey, you know what? I get that. But on the appeals process, if you go look it up under Justa, or just Google David Constance appeal, state of Louisiana, and you can read down to the section of me on the stand, and I did some pretty good stuff. Ultimately, I beat his ass, right? And the Clutch didn't want to see me on that stand. And that's what I kept pointing at him, like Mr. Kearney Foster taught me. And I would never look the defense attorney. Every time they would ask me a question, and I would look at the jury, and I would answer it. And if they asked anything about Clutch or Constance, I would point directly at him and said, he did commit aggravated rape, and I'd state whatever it was. But anyway, so he tried to appeal on me. Naturally, they tried to appeal on the juror, and then he tried to appeal on Little Josie's case, saying that we didn't prove that he penetrated her, and he lost all the appeals, although there was one judge that dissented and wrote a dissenting opinion on the juror during voir dire who had the nephew that had been molested. And that judge said that they believed that that juror could have been biased by that. But, there wasn't any proof that she was, but that she could have been biased by that. Well, you know what? It didn't matter, people. Back then, it didn't take 12 out of 12 to get the conviction, right? I mean, I think it was like 10 out of 12 or something like that. But it came back 12 out of 12, unanimous guilty verdict. But now let me tell you about Double Clutch. David Constance, y'all. Whoever is at Angola, listen to this podcast. I know you have cell phones up there, and I know y'all listen to the shit somebody's actually told me before. David Constance is at Angola right now, and he is playing. I mean, he plays people for a living, and he got away with it for all those years. And I always say it's hard to catch a smart criminal. He is up there now, and guess what? He's holier than thou. He's supposedly a preacher and leads prayer groups and all this fancy stuff, right? And guess what, though? He says it's all a setup. That Christina was mad at him because he had put her out, and she made up all these victims, and that I went out and made up all the stuff, and that I got him bad. So, I mean, he's telling him, and evidently, I don't know why the fuck he hadn't been killed yet, but that's not me. That's inmate justice. And, you're at Angola, bloody Angola, and you there, and you're a chomo, child molester. Holy fuck, you don't live long. I mean, or are you going to catch an ass whooping every day, or how they're going to use you and abuse you? But evidently, David Constance, and I don't have his inmate number, I'd give it to y'all. He's the only little troll-looking fucker, white dude that was from Livingston Parish, convicted of 4 counts of aggravated rape. And he is a monster. I'm talking to the convicts up there, the true convicts who are in for murder, and they know why they're down, right? But they're not child molesters, child rapists, and even your own kid so many times, Why is that dude still walking around? You know why? Because he's got y'all fooled. He's a preacher, and he's holier now, and the detective set him up, and his ex-wife set him up. I'm letting y'all know it didn't happen that way. I didn't want to even talk to those women when they came in the office. I was actually busy on another case, and that, case rolled into what it rolled into. It's not like I woke up in the fucking morning and fabricated evidence for this shit, or I even wanted it. You think I wanted to hear all those horrible stories, what happened to these babies? No. David Constance is a child molester. He's convicted by a jury of his peers on the only 4 counts we went for, aggravated rape, and that includes his own kids and everybody else's that he can befriend. So let it be known up in Angola, whatever fucking bullshit he's flowing on y'all, he's full of fucking shit. He is a chomo rapist of the worst kind, because he even raped his own baby. And, well, she says he forced her to do it. However, they did it together. And whether he, groomed her from an early age, that doesn't matter. But they raped their own kids. Can you imagine? And everybody else's. Just let it be known in Angola that this is the reason it went viral on the sleepover thing. And I'd never really looked into it. And we went to number 1. That was the number 1 episode listened to in the world. David and Christina Constance Double Clutch, the very first episode ever of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And with that, y'all, I'm going to end it for today. I love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. Sleepover, shit, I grew up sleeping. I probably spent more times at my friend's house and them at my house, and nobody ever tried to touch me and shit like that. And if they did, I damn sure would have told. So, as my whole opinion on the sleepover thing, I mean, shit, you gotta let your kids be kids, but you can train them, make them aware. Hey, if somebody does something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you call daddy, and I'm coming to get you, right? Or call mama, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Certainly it happens, but I don't know about taking away your kids' total youth experiences. I mean, I got some of the best in the world, and had friends' parents that were like my parents and still are to this day. And I would have missed all that had my parents been afraid to let me go on a sleepover. Anyway, Real Life, Real Crime. Y'all go download the Real Life, Real Crime community app. It's free. I answer in there every morning. We do have TV stuff coming up. I'm not going to mention it again yet. And until I have the details, Patrons, Convicts, Apple subscribers, you've gotten 2 episodes, one for February, one for the end of January. I'm about to put up another one and continue with the monthly thing. And again, this next one's going to have video. So thank y'all for subscribing. If you want to be one of those, you can go to Patreon and type in Real Life, Real Crime. I have all kinds of different tier levels. You can do it in an app. We call them Convicts, the subscribers. Or if you don't want to mess with any of that, go and you listen to the Apple Podcast. You can hit the subscribe. I think it's a free 7-day trial, and I think there's 20 plus, 25 plus episodes that are locked up in the Patreon vault. But there's a lot of other stuff too. There's videos and there's court documents and stuff like that. LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. I will be speaking there tomorrow. Actually, when you get this, I will have already spoken for an hour plus it's at LOPA headquarters, but it's the combined conference with LOPA and the Louisiana Corn Association, right? And so y'all know LOPA is my jam. You don't have to be a lifer from Louisiana. You can be a lifer from Ireland, right? And if you want to become an organ donor, go to lopa.org. Take 2 minutes, fill it out, become a hero. And I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And until next time or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Peace.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, you're running over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down on Murder Bayou. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real O'Reilly.
You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
Oh, oh, O'Reilly